mean something. They mean something to somebody, and what they stand for shows what we mean to you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now.
And, Barbara, it's really interesting, and I know you want to jump in, but, Barbara, it's not a Maryland thing, and I think that what Jayda really laid out really makes the case perfectly. Because, Barbara, I remember the first time I stepped foot with you down in Selma, Alabama, and you told me that we were going to the community college that was there for our programming. It was the only community college in Selma, and it was named what?
The George Wallace Community College. It is, a way of constantly, throwing in black folks' face, how we are subordinated, to this vicious, racial history in our country. And one of my, listen, Senator Mitchell, I just think, your uncle is just, amazing. I wish I had, met Parent Mitchell in my lifetime, and he was a founder of the Black Caucus,
yes,
the Commitment Black Caucus. What a incredible man, and I just think that there's nothing higher that we can do, than fight to make sure that his legacy is always there, and that's why I love and really respect the work that Daryl and so many others do to have the Parent Mitchell dinner every year, and looking forward to it this April. So I also wanted to talk about one other person who I've raised up as another figure that we don't want American history to forget. And they always say, don't forget the women, and I don't want us to, there's so many powerful women out of Maryland. One of the women who changed the face of this country's law was born in Baltimore, became an orphan, had to, go and be raised, by her auntie in North Carolina, but was born and lived her early years in Baltimore from incredible parents who sadly, died so early. But her name is Pauli Mary. And everybody, she is the reason why there was a Brown versus Board of Education case. It was her legal theory. Because she was the first one of the only black women in her class at Howard University's law school. After she graduated, she created what became an incredible thesis and book that she wrote on basically how to litigate against segregation. And Marshall, Thurgood Marshall, told everybody it was the Bible for fighting for the legal fight. But more important than that, even also as important, Ruth Bader Ginsburg signed her name onto the brief in Reed versus Reed, one of the most important women's rights cases in this country to fight and defeat sex discrimination based on the basis of sex. And she also borrowed heavily from the legal theories of Pauli Mary. Women wouldn't have the rights we have today. Blacks wouldn't have the rights we have today. So I just got to throw Pauli Mary into the mix also to say, let's lift her up, Baltimore. Let's lift her up, Maryland. Let's lift her up in this country. We don't know her. We ought to know her. Carl, what do you think when I raise, Pauli also?
I think, first of all, women, as you well know, have often been marginalized and overlooked in history. I'm a big, big fan of people understanding the role that women have played, particularly black women. Gloria Richardson is another name that we've raised up that people should not forget, the kind of contributions that she made. We are in a position, and Senator Carter in particular, we are in a position now where we can put on the table for discussion how do we spend taxpayers' dollars? It's going to take millions of dollars to redo the bridge. We have an opportunity now to also redo history, to make sure it's an accurate history. It seems to me, and I'm very interested to see how this debate continues, we can take the position that some have taken, that this is not time to talk about renaming bridges and structures, etc. Or we can do what Dr. King often told us. Dr. King said the time to do right is always now. Now is the time to do right. And so we have an opportunity. The Maryland General Assembly, if we have legislators who put in, as Senator Carter did previously with the teeny statute, put in legislation calling on this, the debate will continue. And by the way, sometimes it takes a while. It's not going to happen overnight, but we've got to keep being persistent and insistent and consistent, just making it crystal clear. I keep telling people I met that lady, Rosa Parks, and for the rest of my life, I will always remember what she said. I did not give up my seat to a white man. I did not refuse to give up my seat to a white man. She said, I refuse to give up my dignity. And this is what this is about, our dignity as a people. Are we going to continue to allow people to not only be discriminatory to us, but have us subsidize their racism? We have a choice, and we elect people to public office who are supposed to be advocating on our behalf. We shall see.
And Daryl, and everyone.
It is important that in terms of the name associated with Congressman Mitchell, he was the author of the federal 80 program to make sure that black minority contractors we got their fair share of public taxpayer-supported contracts. And they always claim they can't find people of color who have the expertise to bridge a bill, to do asphalt and do some kind of interesting things with respect to engineering and whatever have you. We have plenty of them, and we can find them. So this will be making sure not only will this impact what our memory is of Francis Scott Key, but feed families, countless families across this country, because these are good-paying wages. And more importantly, it will be a significant impact upon the economy of the state of Maryland.
Thank you. And I wanted to ask Senator Carter, what can people do? People all over the country are listening to this show. They're listening all over Maryland. They're listening all over the country, all over the world. What can people do to help? How do they help to strengthen this battle to rename this bridge so that we don't have to celebrate with our funding and with our daily lives a racist? What can people do?
So I think it's still successful. It still works when you contact the legislators and the leadership. And so people that are interested, I would suggest to weigh in and make this recommendation to the governor, make this recommendation to the Maryland legislators, particularly members of the Legislative Black Caucus and the leadership of the House and the Senate, which is Speaker Adrian Jones and President Bill Ferguson. And in terms of the Black Caucus, and I'm happy to follow up because I know people won't retain this. I'm happy to follow up so you all can share information later on how to contact everyone. But Janelle Wilkins is the chair of the Legislative Black Caucus. But I also think it's important to reach out to our federal delegation, our partners, Congressman Quincy who was the successor of Karen J. Mitchell in the Congress, who I would think, would be on board with this. And our overall federal delegation. But the issue is people need to hear that this is something that's important and something that's on people's minds. And then I believe it was Carl Snowden who said people still have the right to petition the government. So I would strongly suggest gather these signatures in a petition. It may not be a formal petition, but just to show this widespread support.
And Carl, what can people do also? I mean, thank you, Senator Carter. Those were powerful suggestions. What else can people do, Carl? Because is there a petition people can sign? Is there a way that people can gather and rally and do things to show their support for this important fight?
Yeah, there are two things I want to say quickly. One is Daryl came up with the idea of having this online petition, and we're going to definitely put that together, have an online petition. But one of the greatest things that anybody who's concerned about this particular issue can do is to follow the advice of Dr. King, who said, in a democracy, the greatest march that someone can participate is the march to the ballot box. We have an opportunity to elect men and women to public office. We should be asking the men and women we're voting for, where do you stand on this issue? If they say they support this effort, on May 14th, people should go to the polls and cast their ballots in favor of that person. On the other hand, if they're resistant to it, well, you know what to do from there. We have, as Dr. King said so often, the power to make America better. And as the Reverend Jesse Jackson so eloquently just stated over and over again, we can, when we make up our minds, change America.
Well, Barbara, with that, I certainly want to thank all of our guests that were here today. Carl Snowden, the convener of Caucus of African American Leaders, State Senator Michael Bowen Mitchell, who's been with us, as well as State Senator Joe Carter, who's a very good friend of mine, Jayda Jeffrey, and Quincy Robinson. And Barbara, as you were indicating, if people are interested in finding out more information about Pauli Murray, they certainly should go online, Google her, and find out a lot of information with regards to Pauli Murray. But also, if you're interested in finding out more information about former Congressman Perrin J. Mitchell, as was indicated, we do have a dinner in Maryland that honors him. It will be April the 26th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at Fort George G. Meade in Anne Arundel County. You can go to Eventbrite at 2024 PJM Dinner on Eventbrite to find out information with regards to that event. Most importantly, Barbara, if you're in the state of Alabama, if you're in that 2nd Congressional District, it is time to get your vote on. Get your vote on. As we tell everyone, Barbara, it's time to get off the sidewalks, get into the streets, get into action, and make something happen. Barbara, I know you have a closing word that you wanted to throw out in the last minute as well.
Absolutely. Everybody, it's our time. It's our time. We have the ability to be heard. Raise your voice. Help your friends to go vote. Make sure everyone you know is registered. Don't fall for the okie doke. You go, you sit down with them, and you go to vote.org, and you verify that they are registered. Make sure they know where to vote. Do all of those things. Be part of our Army for Justice, because freedom fighting's not over yet. We will never give up until the battle is won. Right, Daryl?
Absolutely. Off the sidewalk, into the streets. Let's make it happen, folks. Get out there and vote. Peace, everybody.
Peace.
The preceding program was paid for by Barbara Arnwine.
If you came across a child struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them? By their clothes, their age, the way they speak? Would you recognize a 13-year-old boy who gets into fights at school?
Not because he's a boy, but because he's hungry?
Or a 2-year-old girl who cries all night?
Not because she's sick, but because she went to bed without enough to eat.
Or maybe a 9-year-old boy who hopes a friend invites him to a sleepover?
Not for fun, just so he can have dinner.
Or a 15-year-old girl who goes for walks over lunch,
so her friends won't know she doesn't have anything to eat?
I am the 1 in 7 American children who struggle with hunger. Kids you pass by every day, but never knew were hungry. I am child hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerinAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong.
News Talk 1450 and 95.9 WOL with the Carl Nelson Show. Weekdays from 6 to 10 a.m. Reverend Al Sharpton keeping it real from 1 to 4 p.m. And the Tavis Smiley Show from 4 to 7 p.m. Download our mobile app and take us everywhere you are or listen live at WOLDCnews.com. The news and issues that matter to you most from Carl Nelson, Reverend Al Sharpton, and Tavis Smiley on 1450 and 95.9 WOL. WOL Washington, D.C. W240DJ Washington. 95.9 WMMJ HD3 Bethesda. WKYS HD3 Washington. WPRS HD3 Waldorf and worldwide at WOLDCnews.com.
The views and opinions of the following show do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of News Talk 1450 WOL, Radio 1 Incorporated, or their management.
Information is power, and now available on your smartphone or tablet. Download the free WOL app now.